welcome to the American Dream. It is always great when we get to have Eran Sinai. He is CEO and founder of ID Cyber Center. It's great to have you in here, and I'm looking forward to this topic today.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Always great to have you. First, I want to touch, I know you have a radio show,
Yes.
I think ESPN.
That's right.
Why don't you just tell me a little bit first about your passion for that and what your topics kind of have been lately?
So whenever people hear ESPN, obviously they think it's a sports show. No, it's not. Yes, I did play soccer. I did play professional soccer, but it has nothing to do with sport. It's a talk show. It's called Common Sense with Eran Sinai. And we bring different guests. We want to take topics that in the realm of the world and make them simple, make them bring common sense into him. So we could have city official from the district attorney to realtors to nonprofits. So we try to really take what's happening here in the world and really make sense to people so they can understand what it is about. And it's fun. The show is live streamed, so people can watch us live in the studio. It's podcasted simultaneously. You can listen to it on the radio. And I love doing it. It's a lot of fun.
And I think it's something that people really want to hear more. Everybody's tired of the mainstream stuff, or like we talk about here with, just more negative media. It's so great when you get to hear things that are empowering or inspiring or make you think differently. And hopefully people come out a better person after hearing your show.
Absolutely. And, it's Monday live at 5 p.m. So people are listening in the radio, believe it or not. Sometimes they don't want to just listen to music. And I try to make it fun. It's not heavy. It's light. I love trivia. I love music. So I always involve things like that. And people, in the beginning, they sit like this. They're a little nervous. And towards the end of the show, they're like, oh, that's an hour already? And it's gone in a second. And you know how it is. So I enjoy it.
Isn't that fun when you watch people relax into it?
Yes,
and
absolutely.
to where they're not nervous anymore and they realize, okay, I'm just here. And people want to hear natural conversations.
Yeah.
They want to hear people that are, engaging and inspiring. So I think that's so awesome that you're doing that. And
it is.
I'm glad we got to touch on that.
Yes, thank you.
Obviously, one of the really important roles that you play is being founder and CEO of ID Cyber Center. Right now, cyber, people are heightened about it. There's a culture right now, everybody's worried. They're worried about cyber attack. First, tell me, what you see as a culture that the world is looking at as far as cyber.
Unfortunately, it's not going to get any better anytime soon. As a matter of fact, there was just a convention. It's called Black Hat Convention in Vegas. That's where all the good hackers get together and discuss what's next. And the biggest topics, believe it or not, was voting. Do we want to use pen and paper or do we want to use digital? So it affects every area of our lives. And I think we cannot, and a lot of people, you'll be amazed from research we have done, bury their heads in the sand and thinking if they won't look into it, it won't happen to them. But when we talk about breaches and data leaks, and we're looking at Equifax, one of the 3 credit bureaus, when over 148 million people's information is out there. So there's no question in my mind that each one of us, you, me, every one of us, information is out there. The question is if they're going to do it, when they're going to do it, and not if, but when, and what they're going to do with it. So I would really recommend that people don't bury their head in the sand. Check on a regular credit your credit card statement. Check your credit once in a while to see. Check your even medical bills. Once a year, get a statement from your insurance company and go through it, kind of x-ray of your insurance bill, because there's a lot of medical identity theft.
Wow, that is great advice. And I bet a lot of people don't think about that.
No one does it. No one does it. And I said, look, it is tough. There's pluses and minuses with being so advanced, but we're not going backwards, we're going forward. And the thieves, yes, they're getting a little more sophisticated, but it's not as much as them being sophisticated as much as the tools are so much more readily available. So I just encourage people to really be conscious and proactive. You can't prevent it, but you can be proactively doing things to protect yourself.
So you really see that the worry kind of is real. Is there anything that people are worried about that maybe shouldn't be and they're focusing on the wrong thing from your perspective?
Yes, I think people are focused on the credit card and they think, well, it's okay, if they'll steal my credit card, the bank will reimburse me. But it's not only that, it's much deeper than that. It is using your identity to even do crimes. It is doing things that could hurt you financially that you're going to have a problem proving that it's not you. And I always say, even quickly, people don't know the difference between using a credit card and a debit card as far as liability. And it is so common, a small, quick example, Demi Moore, everyone knows who she is. A few weeks ago, and you guys can check it out, someone called American Express, and he knew enough information about her to say that her card was stolen and change her address so her new card will be sent to his address. He got her new American Express, and it was in the paper, spent $169,000. Now, because it's her, they didn't question the spending. Then he tried to sell the merchandise. Lucky her, and it never happened. He got caught, right? But what I'm trying to say, don't ignore things. People know about you enough that they can create those synthetic fake profiles just like that. So be proactive, look at your credit card statement, and, worry but keep living.
Sure.
And that's really what I
think
have
being
to say.
proactive and making it the new habit.
Absolutely.
We've had to learn a new habit of living with cybersecurity and with worrying about our identities. It has to become a new part of our almost daily life of being proactive, like you're saying.
Absolutely.
And I think we could probably do an entire half-hour show just on this.
That's right.
I really appreciate that you brought up these key topics.
You're
I hope
welcome.
that our viewers really heed the warning, and we'll be right back with more of The American Dream.
I left the palace to hustle a great life of the American dream. These are the words of His Highness Dr. Prince Mario Max Schaumburg-Lippe of Germany. Prince, good to have you on the show. Thank you so much for joining us on the American Dream.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be with you, and it's absolutely true. It started pretty early. I was born in this little village, we have to say, the city Salzburg, the Sound of Music city. And fortunately enough, we had a stage in this city. And as a young boy, I was performing in the opera Boris Godunov. And that was when I started to dream about Hollywood, about America. And it just became my biggest dream. And then when I was 16 years old, I started to do a radio show and started to do television. So I'm with the media all my life, but of course, first it started in Europe. Very humble with little shows and little columns I wrote. And the interesting thing is when people asked me, what do you do? I always said, I'm on TV, I'm a TV personality, I'm a radio journalist. So I never said I'm a prince, because I said that's something that is not the most interesting thing. My job, being in the media, being in entertainment, was always what I lived for. Yeah, and then a few years ago, I really made it to Hollywood, and after a successful and big career in entertainment in Europe, I said, now I'm going to jump in the cold water, come to Hollywood and see what happens. And I'm now a judge at the Television Academy for the Emmy Awards, and I'm working 7 days a week on interesting projects. I started my own PR company, so I help people to get in the media, or if they have a crisis, get out of the media. And I'm just having a blast being in this wonderful country, and America is being very friendly to me. I think it's such an open and such a cool place. So I feel very welcome, and I thank this country for what opportunity it gave to me. I really have to mention that.
Well, you're an award-winning actor and a TV host as well, so you're very much in the space. You like the art of it all, but it sounds like you also have that entrepreneurial spirit where you're starting businesses and you're doing things for others. Explain what you're doing in that world.
From day one, I'm representing a new TV show by a former Oprah Winfrey producer. I'm representing stars that are in and out of the media. Sometimes we need to get them back out of the media when they have a scandal and they say, oh, Prince, please, can you help us? We have some crisis happening. And I'm like, okay, let's overlay it with a good story. Let's pull you out of the media. I help those. And then a friend of mine who just happened to play along, Eric Roberts, the Oscar nominee and brother of Julia Roberts, and who was now in the Jurassic Park franchise, a new Jurassic World movie. So my buddy said to me, well, I'm doing all these great projects, but I don't get enough press. Boom, here we go. Now I represent him, and he's getting an article every day of the year. That's what I love. And another big project of myself is Prince Caviar. So I import and distribute organic caviar. and it's the world's best caviar. And caviar is very healthy. I grew up with it, but when I came to the US, I saw it's unaffordable, like so expensive. These little tins cost so much. I mean, you can not only work for buying this healthy caviar. So I said I need to change it. So I came in with caviar imported, and this caviar has a wholesale price. So Prince Caviar is affordable for everyone, and it has all the natural fish oils and vitamins. So it's a good product, and now for the first time in America with a great price.
Well, you've had an amazing journey. A lot of people say that the American dream is dead. You, as a prince, have made the journey on your own, taken all of the risks. And as I ask you about your entrepreneurial spirit, it sounds like you're in about 10 different things, but you're passionate about all of them. You have a successful career as an actor, TV host, and now you're helping others to do it. We appreciate you coming on here and sharing your story of the American dream. Thank you so much, Prince. We appreciate it.
Thank you. And I have to say one thing. I'm also sharing what I can achieve because I love the American veterans, what they did and what they do for this country. And I mean, they keep America so nice and they kept it always safe. And I'm always donating for them. I love them. And I did some festival, a caviar festival for benefiting the veterans with the proceeds. And I think we should always look for and after others when we are successful in what we do.
Thank you so much for honoring our military. We really do appreciate that. All right, thank you so much. Cheers to your American dream. Gotta let you go. More of the show coming up next.
Welcome back to the American Dream. Well, my next guest is Eric Merchant. He is a real estate consultant with Trophy Properties and Auction, and he is a favorite of ours, and we absolutely love having him on the American Dream. Eric, thank you so much for being with us today.
Jen, it's good to see you again.
So in general, Eric, is real estate a good investment? I'm just going to put you right on the spot. Tell us, is it good? Is it bad? What should we be thinking about when we are investing in real estate?
Well, you know, I'm a real estate agent, so I'm bullish on real estate, but it's like anything else. There's risk involved, and a lot of that has to do with your tolerance for risk and how old you are and how long you intend to hold this investment. You know, your primary residence is an investment, but it's more of an investment in your lifestyle and good times with family and friends. And if you turn a profit on the sale of your primary residence at some point, well, that's great. It's typically a good tax write-off for you, but it's not where I would put my focus on your investment in real estate. If you're going to do an investment in real estate, we're looking at properties that are not your primary residence and what is the rate of return, and that'd be more the focus of what I would consider real estate investing.
So how do we know a good investment from a bad investment? What are some of the signs we should be looking for?
Great question. You know, return on investment is crucial. When it's not your primary residence, you should be looking at the bottom line. What's this property going to do for my portfolio? What's it going to do for my income? And does it create enough cash flow to service the debt on it if you're having to purchase the property with a loan? So those are all things that we look at. Your age has a lot to do with what you should be looking for. When you're younger and have a little more get up and go and tolerance for headaches, you know, rental properties are great. Single-family residential rental properties, multifamilies are good if you can afford them. They cash flow really well typically. But again, location, location, location. And you're going to be dealing with people telling you why they can't pay the rent. You're going to be getting applications from people that you probably don't want to rent to, and you have to sort through all that and deal with it. And I'm 54, and I'm at the point in my life, having invested in all categories of real estate, residential, commercial, industrial, agricultural, everything. I'm getting away from the multifamilies. I'm not telling everybody to. I'm just at that point in my life where I don't want the headaches of people telling me why they can't pay me and having to sort through tenant applicants that are less than desirable. I'm getting away from those headaches from multifamily properties and from single-family residential, and I'm getting more into commercial, industrial, and agricultural. The commercial and industrial properties don't tend to turn over as often, so less headaches, and they tend to create very good cash flow if you buy the right one. And then with the agricultural, that's for the person that doesn't want a lot of headaches, wants a low maintenance income producing property that's a good investment. Farmers pay the rent. You don't have them calling you about the toilet backing up in the middle of the night. You don't have them explaining why they can't make the rent payment on time. In 28 years, I've had one farmer that failed to abide by the lease and not pay the rent. One in 28 years. So really low taxes on agricultural ground, decent return on investment, very safe place to park some money if you buy the right piece in the right place. And so for people that are getting a little older and still want a place to diversify their portfolio from the stock market, agricultural ground is a great investment.
What are some of the risks involved, Eric? I mean, there's always risk, and you said you need to really look at your age, look at how much you want to put down, how financially stressed do you want to be. Are there any other risks that we should be aware of before we make a commitment like this?
Yeah, it's a great question. So when you buy a larger piece of ground or a commercial piece of ground, there are certain inspections you want to get done to diminish that risk, environmental inspections to see if there's ever been any toxic waste on the property. There's a variety of inspections you go through when you're buying an investment property. But like anything else, if you have a loan on it, there's risk. You got to pay that loan or you could lose the property. So the more money you can put down, the less debt service you have on the property, the greater the cash flow and income on the property, the safer it is. And so all that, again, has a lot to do with how old you are. And, I didn't start investing in real estate as early as I would have liked to. I wish I had. I probably wouldn't be talking to you right now.
Yes, you would, Eric.
I'm enjoying it.
Don't get crazy.
I probably would. But it's one of those things. Your age and how long you expect to continue working before you retire has a lot to do with what you should be looking at, and a good agent can guide you through any of that. And the better agents that you want to deal with for investing in real estate, aside from your primary residence, should be agents that also own investment property, because until you've lived that life and dealt with those problems personally and heard those crazy phone calls and the leaking roofs
Sure.
and Lord knows what else, they're not as well-versed and experienced to guide you through the process.
Well, you mentioned what we should be looking at, and I'm going to mention something that we need to be looking at, which is a listing of yours, a beautiful property on 5 acres of land, 2 ponds. Tell me a little bit about this listing.
Wow, this is a great listing for the movers and shakers out there that want to impress their friends or have dinner parties or a place to entertain. What a great house. It's 20 Summer Lake Court. It's in Troy, Missouri, 15 minutes off of I-70. So it's a reasonable commute into St. Charles County and even western parts of St. Louis County. Beautifully adorned home, built with exceptional quality. I can't even get into all the details. Just suffice to say that the gentleman that built this house, him and his wife know what they're doing when they build. This will be the 3rd house I've sold for them. They've got living quarters over the garage for guests or for in-laws or that college student that hasn't left home yet. The walkout lower level is just exceptional. It's got a bar that you just can't wait to sit down at and have a drink and watch a Cardinals game. A couple of fireplaces, just a beautiful master suite. The backyard is so private. When you're sitting on that back patio, it's a huge oversized patio overlooking the pond in back, and of course there's a pond in front. You can't see any neighbors. So you can sit there and barbecue. You could sit there in your birthday suit and barbecue and nobody would know.
Well, it sounds absolutely spectacular, Eric, as all of your properties are. Thank you so much for being on the show again.
Jen, it's really good to see you again. Thank you.
And we'll be right back with more of the show. Welcome back to The American Dream. Well, today we're going to be discussing buying and or selling a home when you live out of state with my next guest, Krista Hartman. She's a seller representative specialist with RE/MAX Results. Krista, great to see you again.
Good to see you too, Jen.
So, Krista, tell us some things that a buyer moving to the St. Louis area from out of state should be doing first and foremost.
Yeah, so I am actually someone that has done this in the past. So 4 years ago, my family moved here, and I know exactly how a buyer feels when they're coming into a new area, not just learning about the houses, but also the restaurants and the schools and everything else. But again, when they're coming into the state purchasing, the first thing you need to do is get a good hometown lender.
Okay, so why is it important to find a lender in the area that you're moving to?
Well, like I said, when I moved here previously, I was doing real estate in another state, and I know that contracts from state to state are very different. So when you have someone that is working with you on the lending side that knows the contracts, they're going to be able to help you even better, and also it's going to be more of a collaborative experience with the agent, the buyer, and the lender.
What are some other things that a home buyer should know when they are looking to purchase a home from a distance away, from out of state?
Well, it definitely can be tricky. And one thing that they can do is have an agent like myself who is really concerned about having vendors and having people that are in my circle that I know can help people in that situation, such as contractors when they move here and movers and different things that they might need as they're moving.
How do buyers get to know those different areas in the city, especially if they don't live there?
Right. Yeah, that's, I think, the trickiest part for buyers and anyone coming into a new city. First of all, I always recommend that they talk with their new contacts here in the city. So maybe it could be employers, or maybe they're moving here to be close to family members. So that's definitely a good resource. And also, I, of course, ask them what are their criteria for moving here and what kind of house do they want. So once I find that information out, then I can really narrow it down to some areas that will provide that type of housing. Maybe, for example, it's they want a new home, 10 years or younger, and they want it to be, 200,000 or less. Well, that's going to really narrow down where they can find that type of house here in St. Louis.
Sure. Have you ever had a buyer make an offer without actually even seeing the house?
Oh, yes, that has definitely happened, probably more than you would expect. But definitely FaceTime has come in handy. And I don't know if I've had anybody that has never been to the area purchase a home sight unseen, meaning that usually they've come to the area, have narrowed it down to some neighborhoods or some communities that they want to be in, and they know the style of homes. And I can say, oh, yeah, remember that one we saw? It was just 2 blocks over from this one. So they're, kind of familiar with the area at least, though.
Sure, sure. So what advice now do you have, switching gears a little bit, for sellers that are living out of state looking to sell their home? That's got to be really difficult.
Yes, and it's funny because I've actually had that situation occur 5 times already this year. I counted it up because I was like, yeah, I know. It was surprising that there have been that many so far. But really, it's just a matter of having a circle of people that can be here and support them and move the transition or the transaction forward. Like, having contractors and inspectors and, different things. And I usually am able to facilitate most of that with for my sellers.
How do sellers sign these kinds of documents when they are living out of state?
Yeah, that's something that it's funny. Most people think, oh, I've got to come back for the closing, but really you don't anymore. What usually happens is the title company prepares all the documents, sends them to the seller prints them out, and then they are able to go to a notary, get it signed, and then return everything via overnight mail.
So really the bottom line here is that if you are out of state, find a real estate professional such as yourself who is well versed in these kinds of transactions. You said you've already done 5 so far already this year. That's absolutely incredible.
Right, and that's just sellers.
And that's just sellers.
Many buyers moving into town too, so yeah.
That's incredible. Well, you certainly help facilitate these transactions. Thank you so much, Krista, for being back on The American Dream. We really appreciate your time today.
Welcome. Thanks, Jen.
And we'll be right back with more of the show. Welcome back to The American Dream. Well, now we're talking about some issues that home buyers are facing with my next guest, Sarah Bravo. She's a top producer and lead agent with Bravo Team, Coldwell Banker, Gundeker. Sarah, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Hey, Jen, thanks for having me. Great to be here.
So what are some of the biggest obstacles that home buyers are facing these days?
So I really think that one of the #1 challenges is there's so much information out there that a lot of buyers they get online, they want to start the process, and to be frank with you, they're just inundated with so much stuff. It's almost like information overload. They don't know where to start. And I think that that's probably the #1 real issue with buyers right out the bat, right out the get-go.
Sure. So what about buyers that are looking for an agent? And we know that there are thousands of agents. You are a top producer in your field. You have been a top listing and selling agent for 4 years in a row. So obviously they can go and find someone such as yourself. But if they are looking for a single real estate agent or they are looking for a team, what are some of the pros and cons there?
So I think one of the things with real estate now really being a 24-hour type industry, people can go online at 3 o'clock in the morning. They can request information, just instantly click a button. And the difference between a traditional single real estate agent and actually having a team, I always like to say it's the difference of going to a having a dining experience where you wouldn't walk into a restaurant and anticipate, the same person to be your hostess, your waiter, your maitre d', your chef, your bartender, your busboy, et cetera. It's the same way with real estate. There's so many different steps in the process that it's impossible for a single agent to handle every part of the transaction. So it really makes a difference having a team, because you've got a lead agent that's overseeing everything, but then you've got an assistant, you've got a transaction coordinator, you've got buyer's agents that specialize in certain marketplaces. And it really just makes the whole experience so much more smooth. It makes the process less stressful, and you really do keep that 100% customer service, because as a single agent handling hundreds of documents for one transaction and multiply that out times 10 or 12 different clients, it's almost an impossible feat with today's real estate market. So that's where just having somebody experienced full-time and the team concept really comes into play, and I think just makes the whole process fun and exciting as opposed to stressful, and really one that sometimes people then kind of go, why did I even bother?
Sure, and I love that real estate analogy. I've never heard that before, but that makes a lot of sense. So after the real estate agent, then who's the most important person when you are in the home buying process?
Oh, this is hands down the lender. That is such an important part of the transaction. I mean, clearly they're lending the money. I help find the house, get the house sold, and handle the contract. But the lender's really the person that makes it happen on the back end. And again, this is more information overload on the internet. People go on Google and they just type in lenders, and you just don't know who you're going to get. So I think having somebody that a real estate agent has dealt with before, or has experience with, knows they're not going to drop the ball, makes all the difference in the world, especially when you're talking about the deadlines and the time frames that are involved. It's all contractual. And I think a lot of buyers just don't understand this is a legal binding document. And if somebody drops the ball out of your hands, that's going to affect you and your transaction. And that's where having the right lender is going to really make the difference, just ensuring that all of the deadlines and the dates and the time frames are met so that they can get to that closing table without any hiccups.
Do your homework. This is potentially the largest investment that most Americans are going to make throughout their lifetime. And when you do your due diligence, that comes back to you tenfold. Thank you so much for being on the show today, Sarah. It was really a pleasure talking with you.
Great. Thanks, Jen.
And we'll be right back with more of The American Dream.
All right, that's all for The American Dream. Thank you so much for checking us out. Remember, our goal is to educate, empower, and engage your American Dream. Don't forget, we love you to breathe oxygen into this message. Follow us on social media, and don't forget, we'll catch you next time. See you next week.